1031 Part 4. This is a low-budget horror anthology movie. The 1031 series obviously based on the date for Halloween, although we kind of say it differently here in the UK. I've seen all the three previous movies. Here is the fourth one. So this has a collection of 4 short stories, a few kind of faux trailers for movies that don't exist, and a kind of horror host that we've seen in the other movies, although this time it's an animated sequences. So we won't talk too much about the kind of the animated host or the trailers because they don't really amount to much, to be honest with you. Nothing really special there. So we will talk about the 4 short films, and then, again, these are all very low budget movies. Let's talk about the first one, and this was a kind of slasher movie, but it's very reminiscent of the movie The Video Dead. So we have this guy who buys this videotape that he finds in this shop, and he watches it with a couple of friends, and there is a kind of slasher that comes alive through the movie, and kind of comes out the TV, a la The Video Dead. This was quite a fun one. It's really the only movie out of the 3 films that is trying to be clever in its sort of storytelling. The way that they combat this kind of slasher is, you know, a little bit of a fun and unique way. It's the only movie that, as I say, the 4 films that has anything that is trying to be clever or fun in regards to a kind of plot device or a story development or anything like that. I won't sort of say what it is, obviously. So that was a plus point for it. It is a little bit reminiscent of The Video Dead, to be honest with you, if you have seen that. It's maybe not as gory as you'd probably expect for a movie which is trying to be a kind of a slasher movie, and I think the slasher is maybe a little bit too reminiscent of a kind of a Jason Voorhees style killer, but it's, you know, it's fun enough. It looks quite cool. The characters I think are really 3 protagonists, relatively kind of well depicted, I think, for a short film which doesn't have a lot of time to build up characters. But I do think at least there's a degree here of somewhat, you get an idea, a flavour of these 3 guys' friendships, and I would say it's enough. Yeah, this was fair. It's nothing especially exciting, but it's a fair enough. It's kind of a slasher movie with a kind of a fun little story moment here and a little plot twist, so to speak. I thought it was okay. The second one is about a guy who owns this kind of chocolate factory, and his daughter had been poisoned and died sometime before, and he wants to take out this revenge on the kind of whoever he thinks is the killer. He doesn't know, so he does so by trying to kill everyone by poisoning the chocolate. And this leads to an unintended circumstance, I guess. This one has an interesting idea. The problem with it is that it's the bulk of the running time is this interview from this reporter to this kind of owner of this chocolate company, basically kind of having this sort of long dialogue sequence that you didn't really feel amounted to a huge amount, and was kind of just filling you in on the sort of the backstory and stuff, and so it's a lot of telling and not showing, and you know, it's not really visually all that interesting. And then you have this sort of, I suppose, the last third of this short story where we have the unintended results of what's happened, and it doesn't really make sense, I've got to say. I mean, it's like, I sort of understand the concept of this guy. He's sort of comes across this charitable guy who's giving this chocolate away to the town and stuff, but in reality he's doing it so he can target whoever has killed his daughter. But then we have this sort of like a zombie finale to it, and it's kind of like, well, that sort of came out of nowhere. It wasn't really sort of set up, and what does it really mean? It just didn't really make a lot of sense. And like I said, the bulk of this running time is two people talking in a room. It's not very exciting. I don't think the acting was necessarily bad, but yeah, it's misjudged, this movie. So this was a one which I didn't feel was particularly strong, although it had it been rejiggled a little bit, maybe a little bit more showing or telling, it could have been a little bit more interesting. The third one was about these three witches that were burned at the stake in the 1960s, and we have a group of 5 kind of social media influencers that are staying in this house for a kind of some type of challenge to get money, and these 3 witches kind of come back and bump them off. This one's notable for starring the only kind of recognisable actor in Brinke Stevens, although she's not in obviously a huge amount because it's only a short film. Now this one is, the direction was terrible. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The cinematography for about 50% of this short film is so bad. It's so darkly lit. I mean, a lot of it is like day for night, and you literally can't see what's going on. It's just like people talking in a black screen, and I'm not exaggerating. You know, the story has like a neat idea in a way. I mean, it's stuff we've seen before, but the actual execution was so bad. I mean, I had to look who directed this, but it was Dustin Ferguson. A director that I've reviewed a few movies of and has been pretty terrible across the board. So I wasn't surprised to see his name here. Again, a sort of fair idea, wasted. Nothing to say really on this one apart from, yeah, it was nice seeing Brinke Stevens, and we have these kind of peroxide blonde witches, but it's kind of like, it was poorly handled. Then the last one is probably, you know, a fair one. Again, this is a werewolf film where we have a guy gets attacked by something, he doesn't quite know what it is, and ends up turning into a werewolf and killing, you know, some people. And it's pretty like a no frills in regards to sort of anything clever in regards to plot. It's just a guy turning into a werewolf. Again, it was fine. It was relatively, you know, well done for a kind of clearly low budget. Directed by Ryan Sheets, who did Pumpkin Man or The Pumpkin Man. The werewolf, again, it's lower budget. It's kind of rubbery, but it's fine. It's just, you know, it's just a very short werewolf film without really a huge amount of context about what's kind of the, you know, what's going on. It's pretty much no frills, but it's fine. Overall, it's a pretty nondescript anthology, when I had to say. Even, I would say, the 2 reasonable movies aren't exactly sort of stellar. One which was a missed opportunity and one which was just poor. So it's ultimately probably a below average movie, with only one being genuinely rubbish, but none of them being particularly strong. So yeah, 4 out of 10 for me. You know, this 1031 series, they're all low budget indies, but I've seen better for the same kind of budgets as this. Have you seen this? What did you think of it compared to the rest of this series? 4 out of 10. Leave me your thoughts.